been dreaming about doing an Anne of Green Gables vacation for over a decade. I love visiting film locations almost more than I do historical sites because then I get to live out my fantasy and play the main character of my favorite movies. I love the 80s Anne of Green Gables with Megan Follows. I'm sure you all know these. And surprisingly, even though the movies take place on Prince Edward Island and some B-rolls were filmed on Prince Edward Island, most of the film locations for those movies were filmed in Ontario. So, in order for my Anne of Green Gables vacation to play out correctly, I had to visit both provinces. So, let me show you what I found, and we're going to start in Ontario. We'll of course start with the Green Gables house itself, which was played by the house at Butternut Farm. It's private property with a gated driveway, but you can still catch a partial glimpse of the house behind the fence and trees. I love that they've still kept the white exterior with green trim. The Avonlea Schoolhouse scenes were filmed at the Simcoe County Museum, and it was such a surprisingly nostalgic stop. Everything looked almost exactly the way it did in the movie. The desks, the walls, the chalkboard, the teacher's desk. I could practically see Anne smashing her slate over Gilbert's head. The area around the building looks a little different now, partially because of a recent storm that took down many of the trees. We almost missed it, but a museum employee pointed out that Minnie Me's outhouse was also out back. One film location I was determined to find, and that took a lot more sleuthing than I'd care to admit, was the Green Gables field. This spot appears in several scenes like where Matthew dies, where Anne and Gilbert walk up into the sunset at the end of the first movie, and where Catherine finally discovers what home really feels like. The house you see in the background was also used for the back exterior shots of the Green Gables house. If you're familiar with the spin-off TV series Road to Avonlea, the house also served as the King family's house, and the field had Avonlea Village built on it. It's all private property, so we could only view it from the road. If you want to find it for yourself, though, I have the location labeled in the map link below. Remember when Anne was dared to walk the ridgepole of Moody's roof and fell off? You can visit that house at the Pickering Museum Village, an open-air history museum. One of my favorite stops was Westfield Heritage Village, a living history museum where several scenes were filmed. We have the iconic train station where Matthew first meets Anne. Then there's the general store where Matthew buys Anne her puff sleeve dress. I walked in already feeling familiar with the store. They even have a replica of the dress displayed in the window as a nod to the film. There are a few other film spots around the village too, like the road where Gilbert picks Anne up while she's carrying packages, the church cemetery where Matthew is buried, and the Hammond Mill where Mr. Hammond has a heart attack at the beginning of the movie. Aunt Josephine's house was filmed at the Spadina Museum, and it looks almost exactly the same on the outside as it did in the movie. And inside, in the conservatory, they filmed the scene where Anne has tea with her. When Anne goes to Queen's College, the steps where the students are celebrating Gilbert's gold medal and Anne's Avery Award was filmed at Victoria College. Also, the arched alleyway where she meets up with Josie Pye and Ruby Gillis is just across the lawn. I really wanted to capture this angle and recreate the scene where Anne first sees Maplehurst. Unfortunately, there was major construction happening on the De La Salle College property, and the house was gated off. The biggest disappointment of this film location hunt was the iconic bridge. You know, the bridge. The bridge is in complete shambles now, just a pile of timber and a large no access sign in front of it. A little side quest for me, since it was nearby, was was popping by the church from the Road to Avonlea series. It's a cute church, closed off, but a sign out front even mentioned that it was used in the series. The Prince Edward Island film locations are a bit more obscure and probably more for the superfans. I was surprised that no one I talked to seemed to remember the White Sands Hotel from the beginning of Anne of Avonlea. You know, the scene where Anne loses her manuscript and meets Captain Morgan for the first time. I was fortunate enough to actually stay at that hotel, Dalvay by the sea. It was everything I'd hoped for and more. You can read more about my stay in the link below. One B-roll scene is Anne and Diana next to a lighthouse, New London Lighthouse. This was one I desperately wanted to recreate with my friend, and I think we did a fab job considering we aren't photo professionals with the right equipment. This one is probably the most obscure film location, Orwell Corner Historic Village. It was used mainly for B-roll in the films, but you'll find these barns more in the Road to Avonlea series, especially as the barn where Jasper lives. I have more in-depth details about all these film locations in the link below. If you know of other Anne of Green Gables film locations, share them in the comments so that other fans can find them too. Prince Edward Island definitely felt like Avonlea. If you'd like to see the real historic sites connected to Ella Montgomery and the places that inspired Anne of Green Gables, make sure to watch my next video.